Hi, guys, and happy Friday. It's Good Friday, and it is a holiday weekend. We have Easter this Sunday. So you will not have e learning classes on Monday, April 13th. I emailed parents earlier, but I just want to make sure you guys know as well. You have been comparing 2D shapes, and I've had some different assignments for each class here and there. I think I'm going to have everyone do the same assignments, at least for the next unit or the other half of our unit, just so I know that you are classifying your quadrilaterals correctly. So, some of the questions that you should ask yourself when you compare shapes are how many sides do the shapes have that I'm looking at? Are the lengths of the sides the same or are they different on each shape? And how many sides are equal? Are the opposite sides equal on your shapes? Also, you can ask yourself, are there any square corners on my shapes? And if there are, how many do you see? So what I did is I drew some shapes out so we can kind of talk about the attributes on each shape. So remember, attributes are the way that we describe or the way we can classify or group our shapes. It's like if I described the shirt I was wearing, it has some yellow or gold on it. It also has some sparkly green coloring. With shapes, again, we can classify them by the types of angles they have. Some of you have been saying the points, and I know what you mean, but let's try to focus on saying that vocabulary. We want to focus on angles because next year in fourth grade, you are going to be classifying and describing your angles using the words, acute, um, 90-degree angle or a square angle or obtuse. Okay, so big. So let's make sure that we're focusing on that. So here, let's pick up a shape we've known since kindergarten. Okay, here is a square. And some of the attributes are that it has square corners. Now, this shape, remember a square corner, you can take another piece of paper and the corner of that piece of paper would fit perfectly in the corner of my square. But this shape, this quadrilateral, remember quadrilaterals have four sides. This quadrilateral has four square corners, right? One, two, three, four. It also has two pairs um, of parallel lines. So sets of parallel lines. So remember, a pair means there are two. So you have a pair of eyes, one, two eyeballs, right? So here's a pair. There's one, two. These lines are parallel. They will never touch. They are also the same length on a square. We've talked about that in class before. So remember, on a square, all four sides are the same length. And here's the other pair. One, and its opposite is its pair. Okay? So please remember that there are two sets of parallel lines on a square, four square corners, and all of its sides are the same length. So those are the attributes of a square. I am going to pull up our rectangle. So, sorry, my little mess right here. Here is my rectangle. The rectangle also has four square corners. Okay. This has two pairs of parallel lines. So here's one line and its opposite pair is over here. And then here's the other pair. So this line and its opposite over here. All the sides are not the same length, but in the pairs, if each opposite is the same length. And I hope that makes sense. So here's something funny that I kind of talked about with you guys in switches, but it may not be something that you remember. A square is technically a rectangle because it has two pairs or two sets of parallel lines and it has four square corners. But a rectangle cannot be a square because all its side lengths are not the same size. I know that's kind of tricky, but the older you get, the more you'll discuss this. So just know a square can be a rectangle, but a rectangle cannot be a square. Okay? So let's pull up my next shape. A parallelogram looks like a rectangle. It can look like a square. The biggest difference is the angles are not square angles. Okay, in this one, I see acute angles because they are smaller than a square corner. Okay, but I also see obtuse angles. These angles, and if you notice, they're opposite of each other. Okay, these angles are larger. So bigger. Sorry, guys. Bigger than a square angle. All right. This also has two sets of parallel lines. I'm sorry if I said that. So there's one, two, there's a pair. Those are the same length. And these opposite sides, one, two, are parallel to each other. They will never cross or intersect. And they are also the same length. These can have four sides that are the same length, but your picture should point that out in your book. So if that's true, the text will say all the sides are the same in this parallelogram, or they will put numbers. So for instance, let's pretend that this is a parallelogram that has four equal sides. It might say 4 inches, 4 inches, 4 inches, and 4 inches next to each side. Okay, so that's a little bit about the attributes of a parallelogram. Here's our trapezoid. And remember, I always make fun of it and call it a trapezoid. This one has four sides again because it's a quadrilateral. This one happens to have, in my picture, a set of parallel lines. So here's a pair. Here's one, and its pair, its other part of the pair is down here. Those are parallel in my picture. They do not always have to be parallel, but in this one they are. If you can tell, these lines are not, these opposite lines are not parallel. They will eventually intersect. So if I kept drawing a line this way and a line this way, they would cross. So yes, this has four sides. This one, mine that I drew here, does not have a right angle, even though it might look like it. It does not have a square corner. Okay, so trapezoids can look different than this, and you guys have been doing a really good job pointing that out in your work. So just keep that up, and remember, you always look for the clues in your book and always read the directions for each shape when they are in the book or on your work. Okay, I have two more. Here is our rhombus. Now, a rhombus is special because, like a square, all four sides are the same length. Okay, so it is a parallelogram because it has two pairs of parallel lines and and this one has no square corners, correct? And on this one, though, all the sides are the same length. So please remember that. It still has four sides, okay, because it's still quadrilateral. Remember, I told you when I was a little girl, I used to say diamond, but with Common Core, these are rhombuses, okay? And your last quadrilateral is just a random one I drew. Now, there was a shape like this on your work yesterday. So my drawing, I meant for this line to be the same length, as this line. And I wanted this line to look like the same length as this one. But if you look, there are no sets of parallel lines. There are no pairs at all. Okay, this opposite is not parallel with that line. Same with this one. This opposite side is not parallel with that line. I also do not see any right corners. Again, that does not have to be the case. Some of you have been drawing me some really cool shapes that are quadrilaterals that don't fit into any groups. So that kind of applies to this shape, all right? So your assignment today is on a Google form. There is more than one correct answer for each problem, but there are only 5 problems, and it's not too challenging, but you do have to study the shapes in each picture in order to understand what the question is asking you. I am going to attach just some notes from the instruction workbook that you don't have, that I do have, onto your Google Classroom. So if you need to look at that, please feel free to do that. You guys can also always go back to your old work and look at the old links that I've put on there in order for you to better understand what attributes are of two-dimensional shapes. So we are going to wrap up two-dimensional shapes, and then we're going to go into 3D shapes and talk about the vocabulary and learn a little bit about those shapes. And then the last few days, we're going to start prepping you with 4th grade work. I just need to talk to the 4th grade teachers and figure out a plan, and we will go from here. You guys are making me super proud. Your work is looking fantastic. If I write notes on your assignments, please feel free to correct them and let me know that you did that. So I at least know that you're reading my notes and that you understand where there's room for improvement. Okay. Just keep it up. Keep writing me if you have questions. If you really need to speak to me, like I said before, all you have to do is message me Make sure your parents know, and we'll try to set up a Google Hangout, okay? All right, I will see you guys later. Have a good weekend. Happy Easter. Spend that time with your family and enjoy your Monday off. All right, bye, guys. Miss you.